I think it's fair to say this is a strange time, right? Would you guys agree with that? I think it's fair to say this is uncharacteristic, and it's kind of hard to get our footing because we don't really have any reference for what we do in a pandemic. This is new. We've seen it in movies, and now at some level it feels like we're living a science fiction movie. But when we come out of the movies, we can talk about it and it's over, but we never really think about how far-reaching this is, how it affects schools, how it affects families, how it affects jobs, how it affects everything. Toilet paper. I mean, who anticipated that? And there have been many times in history where there was disruption. If somebody else is on the line, can you just hit *6 to mute? When something gets disrupted, an industry shifts. So I'll give you an example. Some of you may be old enough to remember these big vinyl things called records, albums, and that was big business, and there were record stores, and there was this huge record store in New York called Tower Records, and when a new album would come out by like Prince or somebody, they'd be there live. It was a big, big, big business. And then somebody figured out that we could take that music and put it on this little compact disc, and you don't have to buy the big albums anymore. And now, what's a compact disc? So when an industry shifts, there's a lot of adjustment that has to take place. But what's interesting about the example I gave you is people still listen to music. Like they bought a different delivery vehicle, but they still listened to music. This is different. This is bigger. This is not an industry shifting. We are here because we're in the fitness industry, health club industry, medical field, or something related to health and science. But virtually every industry is somehow impacted by this. And not only does it impact the industry, but it impacts the entire marketplace. And that's what makes it so uncharacteristic. We don't know how to behave. We don't know what people are going to want on the other side of this, or do we? So there are some things that don't change. Even when an industry changes, there are some things that don't change. One of the greatest books I've ever read, and I read it almost every day, and I'm not kidding, is a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I have read this book pretty close to every day, at least a paragraph, for probably the last 35 years, maybe more. I bought well over 300 copies, not because I want to read different copies, but because I've given it to people and to employees and to clients. Because no matter what, the principle, as we think, so shall we be, holds true. So there are eternal principles. Lots of people who got into the fitness business got into the business because of their passion, not necessarily because they had any interest in business. So a lot of club owners and personal trainers really learn on the fly and never had a foundational education in the field of business. Would you guys agree with that? So if we go back to the foundation of business, and I ask the very simple question, why does a business exist? When I talk to personal trainers, I'll very often get this answer: to help people. That's not why a business exists. It's not. Maybe it's why an altruist does what they do. Maybe it's why people give to charity some of the time. Maybe it's why Mother Teresa did what Mother Teresa did. But it's not the reason for business. The purpose of a business is profit. Now, going back to what I just said, many personal trainers got into business because they had a passion for personal training, and they love helping people. And if they could make money doing what they love, then great. But honestly, many of them don't love the idea of doing what they do for money. They want to get paid, sure. But when we talk to them about profit, they cringe. And I know, because I was there once. And I know some of you guys can relate to this, if not all of you, right? Is anybody relating to this? You didn't come into this going, I'm going to make millions of dollars. You hoped it would be nice, but you came into it because you want to help people. So let's not mistake that desire to help people as the reason for a business. So if the reason for a business to exist is profit, then there's a very simple formula. In order to have profit, you have to sell more than you spend. So if there's a business and they spend more than they sell, they will not be a business very long. They will be nothing. The key to business is offering a product or a service that people want. Now, all of this seems really obvious, but stay with me, because it's important that we hold on to the eternal principles before we get knocked around by a pandemic and think we're supposed to totally change gears. Let's come back to the foundation of business. So the key to success in business is offering a product or a service that people want. And why do they want it? Because they want to enjoy it. Why does somebody want a milkshake? Because they want to enjoy it. Why does somebody want a diamond? Well, because they want to possess it. Why does somebody want what another person has? Because they want to obtain it. Why does somebody want a treadmill? Because they want to benefit from it. So the key to having a successful business is selling enough to people who want so that you can sell more than you spend. So far, this is really simple, right? Walt Disney is revered as a business genius. He has to be. Say what you will, for a grown man to take the idea of a cartoon mouse and conceptualize that he's going to build an amusement empire, that people come from all over the world to forget about their problems and spend thousands of dollars, might have been thought of as insane had Walt Disney not proved it to be true. And anybody who met Walt Disney would say he was eccentric. He was odd. He was an outlier for sure. But when he had this concept of building Disney World, when he came to Florida and wanted to build on a swamp this amazing resort park, the architects, the landfill experts, the designers all came up with a sophisticated plan. Roadways and structures, and he said, no, you got to build the castle first. And they said, that doesn't make any sense. So much expense will be wasted in putting up the castle when the land around it isn't even developed. You can't build the castle first. Well, they built the castle first. Why? Because it took the vision that was an intangible and made it something real. Suddenly, there was something to look at. Suddenly, there was something to photograph. Suddenly, there was something to put on a brochure, on a flyer. The castle from the animated cartoons was suddenly real. So he built the castle first. The entire business process, rising to prime on the life cycle of business, remember that phrase because I'm going to explain exactly what that means. But the entire business process that brings you to the point of prime in the life cycle of any business is driven by one thing: desire. People didn't want to come to a swamp. People didn't want to come to parking lots. People wanted to come to fantasy. They wanted to escape the real world. They wanted to step into the cartoons and take their children. They wanted to fly on Dumbo. They wanted to be with princesses. That's what they wanted. So Walt Disney knew he had to tap into their desire to build a business that was completely illogical. Now, when you look at your screen and you see this list of words, what do they have in common? Love, sex, recognition, power, pleasure, control, self-esteem, confidence, wealth, fulfillment, and wisdom. What do these have in common? These are things that people want. Are they needs? So we can go item by item and debate. But I can argue that these are not needs. I could say water is a need, air is a need, shelter is a need. But is confidence a need? Well, if anybody wants to argue that with me, you would, I'm sure, have a very good point. You would say, yes, if you want to be successful in this life, you need to have confidence. So what are you telling me? You're telling me that in your perception, confidence is a need. In your perception, confidence is a need. So if the one thing is desire, and we want to build a business that taps into desire, we need an insight that goes beyond that. Because if somebody's building a business saying people desire confidence, but there are others who would go, well, that's not really a need. They'd rather have a nice car than confidence. And then you could argue, maybe the nice car will give them confidence. So we need an insight so that we can all agree. If we're going to build a successful business on the other side of COVID, we need this insight. We need to recognize or create, and in every case, understand the perceived need. Whether or not it's a need, we need to understand what our market perceives to be a need. Because I meet people who tell me they need Starbucks. One of them is my daughter. Dad, can we stop at Starbucks? No, honey, you're going to be late for school. It's okay, I could be late. I need Starbucks. We don't, by the way. But she tells me she needs it. She perceives that she needs it. Now, when you look down this list, are any of these things truly human needs? What are these? These are brands. These are brands. These are names made up by people who tapped into perceived need or created perceived need. Before we started, I was joking around. I mentioned toilet paper, and in this time of crisis, toilet paper is a hot commodity. Do we need toilet paper? We don't need to have that discussion right now, but I'm going to tell you, people will do a lot to get toilet paper. I've witnessed it. So it's not about the actual need, it's about the perception of the need. I have sat in on, I can't even count the number of meetings and roundtables and discussions and industry discussions, and in the health club field, in the medical field, the wellness field, the personal training field. And I'm listening to the people scramble and move and bob and weave from week to week. And everybody knows that our businesses are built upon fulfilling needs. Everybody knows that. But we need to understand the difference between needs and perceived needs. Wellness is the most impotent word in our field. The concept itself is beautiful. You know, you're going to be well. But people don't flock to wellness. What happens is, if they're not sick, they don't think they need wellness because they're already well. And then when they get sick, they don't go to wellness, they go to doctor. Because what do they need? Cure. So even though the concept itself is beautiful, it doesn't speak to need. The people who love the word are the people in the industry who think everyone else should love the word. The same is true with prevention. What a great concept. We want to help all the people who haven't had heart attacks yet so they don't have heart attacks. But the problem is these people living their life going, I'm fine, I didn't have a heart attack, I could drink, I could smoke, I could party. After the incident, now they go to the hospital. Never along the way do they go, I am so compelled by this idea of prevention. Even health is a commodity that people think they have until they get sick. And then they're seeking recovery. So even though our industry believes that we should market using those terms, I'm telling you, they are impotent words from a marketing perspective. Might some people succeed? Yeah, because they have access to a marketplace, because they have people who can pull, because they offer services in a given community, but not because of the strength of the word. So in every decade, after every shift, after a global shift takes place, there are always leaders who emerge. And I'm going to say right now there is an opportunity for you to emerge as a leader. Now, some of you are leaders in your own right, but I think there's an opportunity to step higher, to literally stand at the pinnacle. Not from a perspective of ego, from a perspective of leadership. But in order to lead, you have to think differently than the masses. This is really important. In order to lead on the other side of crisis, you have to think differently than the masses. Otherwise, you're accepted for a short period of time and swallowed into the crowd. So you have to think differently than the masses and then start to win people over to your way of thinking. So a part of what the next leaders have to do is separate the idea that business owners have about what people need from the true perception. If you tell me in a marketing meeting that people need wellness, I'm walking out of the room. Not because you're wrong, because it's impotent. It can't be about what we think people need. It has to be about what they perceive they need. What will open the door for the new leaders? Those offers that will most produce are those that offer escape from pain. Do I mean physical pain? In some cases, yes. Do we have an opioid crisis? Yes. Why? Because people want to escape pain. I have a very good friend who was a doctor in family practice for about 35 years, and he just went into medical marijuana. And he's finding a whole new lease on life. He's loving it. But the reason that he's able to build his practice is not because he's selling medical marijuana, it's because he's getting people out of pain. So the offers that will most produce are those that offer escaping agony, suffering, or extreme discomfort in exchange for peace and love and tranquility and pleasure. Wellness doesn't say that. Even the word health doesn't say that. Be well is a nice thing to say to people. But it's nowhere near as sexy to somebody who wants to lose weight as take this pill and lose 30 pounds overnight. Now, you're going to argue that. You're going to go, but that's not true. It's a fake. I'm not asking you to sell a pill. I'm just asking you to recognize what compels people, because if you're going to be a leader, the whole secret is you've got to compel people to buy what you're selling so you can sell more than you spend. So we wouldn't sell a pill unless it truly was a miraculous pill, which we haven't seen yet, because we don't believe in it. So it's unethical to sell something we don't believe in. Agreed? Nobody wants to sell anything. When I ask personal trainers, can you sell? They'll say, only if I'm selling something I believe in. Can you sell personal training? Yes, if it's the right person and I can do the right thing for them. Can you sell cars? No. So we're very tied to this idea of ethics and integrity and morality. And we're also very much about science. You know, we learn things in our studies in kinesiology and exercise science and exercise physiology. And we stick to them because we know they work, because the science supports it. So if somebody comes with a harebrained idea, we're going to say, prove it to me. And if they can't prove it to me, well, we don't believe it because it's not science. So here's part of our challenge. We're altruistic, we care about people, so we put that before foundational business. We don't like to sell because we're ethical, and it only has to be something we fully believe in with the right market. But the marketers are the ones who know how to tap into that perceived need so people buy. So we have to acknowledge that, yes, we are ethical scientists, but we may need right now, at this point in time in disruption, we may need to examine the opportunity through the eyes of marketers with the power to heal. This is really important. Most marketers don't have the power to heal. They have the trickery to sell. They go to workshops. They buy programs. They can create sales funnels. They can't heal. You can. So don't separate yourself. Don't say, I'm not a marketer. I'm a scientist. I'm asking you to be a scientist, but see through the eyes of a unique marketer who has the ability to heal. Right now, there are two places you can go in your future. One, the bloody sea. Two, the blue ocean. Which one sounds more appealing? Now, clearly these are metaphors. What do I mean by the bloody sea? In business, somebody comes up with a novel idea. They go on Shark Tank, they get an investor, and then they're making $15 million. And all of a sudden, everybody sees that on Shark Tank, and they go, I want to create a shop that sells ready-made bagels with cream cheese baked in. And all of these ready-made bagels with cream cheese baked in shops open all over the place. Because somebody was watching and said, that works, so I'm going to imitate it. Some of you may be old enough to remember the very novel idea of opening fitness centers for women that were non-threatening. Because the whole idea was women didn't want to go to gyms where they were either ogled, or they were embarrassed because they didn't look the way you're supposed to look in a gym. So they opened gyms for women, and they were safe, and it was camaraderie, and it was, you go through a little circuit. And this became one of the fastest growing franchises in history. But then other people saw that and they go, I'm going to open a gym like that. I'm going to open a gym like that. I'm going to open one with passive machines where you don't even have to work. And I'm going to open one where we have wine. And I'm going to open, and all of a sudden, all of the sharks jump into that same water. See, it starts with an innovator who sees a blue ocean. Hey, there's nobody selling anything here. I'm going to jump in, and there's so much that I can capitalize on. But when others notice, all the sharks start to come. And ultimately, the whole business model starts to get consumed and crumbles. So the true innovator is looking from above and looking for the untapped marketplace and asking the question, where is the blue ocean? Now, I told you I've sat in on a lot of meetings. I've watched. I've been party to a lot of discussions. And the overriding theory is we got to go virtual. Health clubs with IT departments are now becoming health clubs that offer virtual classes and virtual personal training. And it seems logical because right now when we have shelter at home, people can't leave their house. So this idea of I can't exercise because I can't leave my house is very quickly overcome in a good way by, we could do it virtually. And personal trainers got in these discussion groups, and they bought programs, and there were offers of how to do virtual training. And they bought software, and now they're training people virtually. So the mistake is to look at that and go, that's the future. No, that's not the future. That's the present. That's not the future. That's the reaction to a pandemic. But people want virtual. No, they don't. They don't. They want to be able to feel good about themselves, and in the moment when they're sheltering at home and they feel like they can't work out, it's better than not exercising at all. So in this crisis state, there's desire. But is this really what people want? Now, if you say yes, then you could ignore everything else I say, and that's okay. Time will tell. Because here's the challenge. If you're a personal trainer and you own a facility and you sell training sessions at $75 a session, that's your product. And there's a fair value exchange. You deliver an outcome and the client is very happy to pay your $75 because they're getting fair value. If another trainer came along and said, I can train you for $35, they would assess the value. And what most of us believe is our clients would never leave us because they believe in us. But now let's imagine that the world is shaken, and for a period of time, everybody's exercising from home. And they're excited because they're finding virtual options. And the trainers who used to command $75 an hour say, I'm not going to charge $75 an hour, but at least I can keep my clients. So I'm going to charge $30. And as soon as the dust settles, I'm going to get all my clients back. And that would probably be true if there wasn't disruption in the entire marketplace. But there is. So there's a little company called Peloton. that is capitalizing on this massively. They were in the right place at the right time. They were so well positioned because they were in that market tapping into that avatar before it became crisis. And they don't have to sell their service for $75 a session. And there are large companies that sell online programs, that can sell coaching programs with a far less qualified trainer than you for $12 a session. In fact, there's one company that is now selling online personal training for $8 a month. How do you compete with that? See, the entire market is changing. After CDs came out, you can't go back and sell record albums. And after Spotify, you can't go back and sell CDs. So while there's this theory that now we need to get apps and we need to get technology and we need to figure out how to train people at home, the problem is when that becomes a commodity, your value declines significantly. The conversations are going to take place. Hey, I love you. You know I love working with you, but $8 a month now is what I'm paying. So, I'll come back to you someday. And you're going, no, but I'm worth $75 a session because I train you personally. And they go, yeah, but it takes me a half hour to drive there, and I have to change my clothes, and, this is so simple, and I pay $8. This is what the industry isn't seeing. Everybody's following where everybody's going in the crisis and not anticipating what will happen on the other side. So as there's this idea of perceived need being virtual, all of the sharks are coming. So as more health clubs move their IT focus into developing online virtual classes, the personal trainer is in the bloody sea. You become insignificant. You become another shark in the frenzy. Sad, but true. So what doesn't change? I'll tell you what doesn't change. 65% of our adult population have been diagnosed with at least one chronic disease. That's not changing, at least not in a positive way. In fact, it may go the other direction. But I want you to think about this. 65% of our adult population has been diagnosed with at least one chronic disease. 45%, more than one. And they are on medications forever, unless there's an interruption, unless there's an intervention, unless somebody or something shows up and rescues them. Why do they get the medication? Because they're suffering. And ultimately, what people want is escape from suffering. None of the people who have chronic disease want chronic disease. You're going to tell me they want a drug. I know that because that's what doctors tell me. Ethical doctors make the argument. They go, well, I know you put us down for prescribing drugs, but that's what people want. No, it's not. They want to get out of pain. They're looking for an answer. And if a television commercial with a butterfly says, go to your doctor and ask for this drug, then you do it because you want to get out of pain, not because you want a drug. So on the other side of this pandemic, that will not change. You know what didn't change when CDs went away? People love music. That didn't change. So what I'm telling you is 65% of our adult population or more will want to get out of pain on the other side of this. And they will not find that pain relief riding an expensive bike and paying a small subscription fee to ride the bike in front of their television. Will some of them buy it? Yes, but it's not the commodity they seek. You know what will not change? The medical field as it exists, where it fails miserably at reversing chronic disease. How do I know? Because what are people begging for right now? The cure, the vaccine, the fix. Not because they want a drug or a vaccine, because they have fear and they want to escape fear. So the medical field is not going to change. Do you know How many drugs exist that cure chronic disease? 0. 65% of our adult population have chronic disease. When they go to escape the suffering, they go to the medical field. The medical field prescribes medication. There is not a single medication that cures a chronic disease. Not one. So when we look at the other side of the crisis, let's not look at the commodity. Let's look at the desire. What is the deeper desire underlying the perceived need for all of these apps and technology and virtual training? People want to feel better. That's not going to change. They want to feel better. So when we truly look at what we have to market to, it's not an app and it's not technology and it's not virtual workouts. We have to market the message of I, the business, will help you, the customer, escape pain and suffering. I, the business, by forming a relationship with you, will lead you to a place where you feel better. I, the business, will take some of your money in a fair value exchange so that you, for the first time in a very long time, feel like you're in control of your health and your life, because that's what you want. You don't want to rely on a medication for your power. You don't want to have to wait to see a doctor because the doctor has the power over your health. You want to own it. I, the business, will give you that. You don't want to be on Lexapro and Xanax so that you could laugh sometimes and put on a mask and pretend that all is good. You want to really laugh because you're enjoying yourself. You want to have healthy neurotransmission. I can give you that. That's why you want to become a customer of my business. I can give you what you want. You don't want a commodity. You don't want virtual. You want the outcome. My intention is not in a single webinar to get you to go, okay, I see what I have to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. My intention is to change the way you think. Now, I'm going to tell you that I am starting a program with a colleague, and that program will begin about a month from now. And it's going to be private, closed door. It's not just open to everybody. But I'm going to announce it tonight. There's no obligation. There's no pressure. My intention now is to take a group of personal trainers and health club owners and simply get them to think in a manner that will lead to success. And if this aligns with where you want to go, then we'll talk separately about if you want to be a part of this program. But I'm telling you this. My intention is very simply to get you to think as a leader, not to get stuck with the masses. Look at this quote by Henry Ford. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. That's a really good quote, right? Henry Ford never said that. He never said it. So why did I show it to you? Because if you search on the internet, you're going to find that quote everywhere. I mean, it's kind of a genius quote. Like, I can't ask people what they want. I have to be ahead of them, because if I ask them what they want, they wouldn't even conceptualize a car. They would say faster horses. But sometimes things on the internet get thrown around so frequently that people start to believe them as true. And then, secondhand, somebody relays the quote, and third hand, and everybody believes he said it. He never said it. So where did this come from? It came from a book called Beyond Disruption. Jean-Marie Drew, marketing advertising genius, Madison Avenue guy. He put this quote in his book. It's the first time the quote was ever seen. He attributed it to Henry Ford because it sounded good. He made it up. This is my quote. Whether we create disruption or we experience it, businesses will thrive when they learn to anticipate the other side. I want you to grasp this. The businesses that follow everyone else are going into the bloody sea. They're following the sharks. The food's over here, guys. Virtual sessions, come on. So disruption is good. Now, I'm not saying a pandemic is good. But disruption is good because it changes the playing field and it provides new opportunities for those who may not be at the top. And that's what's happening right now. So businesses will thrive when they anticipate the other side. So in disruption, we have fear and we have panic and we have death. And death leads to fear and leads to panic. And when this includes the loss of livelihood and loss of employment, more fear, more panic. And if you get caught up in it, you get trampled in the masses running from fear. So let's be honest and let's recognize that there's a pandemic. Let's recognize there's a disruption. Let's recognize there's a change. But if you're familiar with the mythological creature called the phoenix rose from the flames. The phoenix, 500 years old, decrepit, ready to die, goes back into the nest where it was born and reemerges as this beautiful, beautiful bird. That exists in mythology as far as the actual bird. But that exists in the real world for everyone who's willing to rise up from the flames. I remember learning when I was younger about this idea of financial security. You know, my dad was an accountant, a CPA. He was a controller for a very large company and always talked to me about, nest egg and savings. And in his day, there was probably such a thing as putting money away for a rainy day. Is there such a thing as financial security? I'm going to share something personal with you. I worked very hard throughout my career. There were 2 times in my life I was in serious debt. Once was because I stood up for my integrity and I got into a lawsuit with an infomercial company that I signed a contract with, and they were treating it fraudulently. And I thought, I'm going to go stand before a judge. It was very clear who was right and who was wrong. It never goes to the judge. They kept bringing me up to Maine for depositions. I had to fly my attorney there. They crushed me financially. Never went to court. And I wound up in debt, in serious debt. This was a difficult place for me to be in life because I was establishing a career as a consultant and I'm helping fitness people build their business. And my attorney and even my father are going, just declare bankruptcy. You could get past this. That's what the bankruptcy laws are for. And I said, I can't do it. I just can't. I don't think I'll sleep well. I don't want to have that stigma. But I want to tell you that was the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me back then. Because I fought and I clawed and I worked and I paid every penny off. Was the debt justified? No, but it was my greatest gift because it taught me what I was capable of earning. Now, years later, I had enough money and home and business and savings that I really thought I was set for life. And then I got sick. And I was misdiagnosed with Parkinson's. Thankfully, it was a misdiagnosis, but I was flying all over the country, paying doctors. I lost my health insurance. My bills were ridiculous, and I literally lost every penny. So I'm telling you this because financial security may not be as real as it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. But is there such a thing as financial security? Yes, there is, because it doesn't mean that you have the money. I mean, I know people who within the last 2 months lost $450,000 in the stock market. And I'm not talking about rich people. I'm talking about people out their life savings. So it's not putting away enough money, although that's a nice thing to do. But it's being able to earn. It's being able to continue this fair value exchange no matter what. And that happens if there is, in fact, demand for what you sell. And if there is profit. And if you own something and have equity in it. And yes, you should have savings. But in addition to that, you should have a premium offering that you can pull the trigger on that generates money for you anytime you need it. And you should also have a front-end revenue stream, which means you put a lot of work in on the front end and then there's a return forever. Now, is it guaranteed forever? No. But the odds are pretty good if you choose the right one. So if you're looking at your screen, what is wrong with that picture? Yeah, the stool has one leg. And this wouldn't happen on a stool with one leg. The stool would clearly tip over. That's a fragile stool. That's a fragile business. A business with one revenue stream is a fragile business because in the case of an industry disruption, it can topple. In the case of a pandemic, it will fall. So you want to have three legs on your stool. You want to have three revenue streams. Something saleable. I know lots of fitness people came to realize they were putting away a lot of money because they were training and charging a fair amount of money, but they had nothing they could sell because they were the business. So when all of a sudden nobody was allowing the trainer into their home anymore, they had nothing and they had nothing to sell. So if you're going to have three legs on your business stool, you've got to build something saleable. Several times in my career, I built something and sold it, which is why I was able to put away money. So somehow, you have to build something that takes on a value that you have equity in, so when the day comes you don't want to be part of it anymore, you can collect money in exchange for all the work you did. You also want something front-end loading. For me, that's a network marketing company. I have never, ever been a fan. I've never chased multi-level marketing. I've been very averse to them. But there is one I found comfort in, or it found me, and I have to tell you, it got me through this period of time. And I'm so thankful for that. And then there should be your premium product, which means even if you sell your business, there's still something that you do yourself, whether it's giving some kind of lessons for a premium. If you own a training studio and you charge $75 for training in your studio, maybe you charge $250 to train people yourself. That's your premium. So we need to build businesses with three legs. And if you didn't have it before, you've learned it now. So what is our best positioning? At the top. Not from an ego perspective, from a security perspective. You don't want to be in the bloody sea where everybody's competing over the same client base that you're fighting over. You don't need to have any competition if you can get to the top. Not because you can now brag and say you're the best, because you can see from up there what's going on. And I'm going to tell you what I see at the top right now. Disease reversal is extremely valuable. Will lots of people sell it? Yes. But will lots of people do it? No. So if you are the marketer who can heal, you tap into the marketplace and you deliver. Now, please, don't let your ego step in here. If you're a personal trainer and you know everything about anatomy and kinesiology and biomechanics, but you've never learned about reversing chronic disease, let's not make it simple. Let's not just tell people that if they eat organic, they'll be healthy. Man, there's a lot more to this puzzle. But what a great time to start to learn. What a great time to emerge as a different kind of expert. This is my uniqueness. Not because of this crisis. I told you I was misdiagnosed with Parkinson's. That changed my life because I didn't have Parkinson's. But had I believed the doctor, I would have lived the rest of my probably very short life believing I had Parkinson's. He wrote me prescriptions for anti-tremor medications. But I kept looking and kept looking. I found out that what I had was mold toxicity. Hurricane Wilma had destroyed my office, and I was sucking in mold from the air conditioning ducts. And it changed me because I got well in 10 days. From Parkinson's to healthy in 10 days. It wasn't really Parkinson's, but that was the perception. So I started thinking differently. I thought, you know what? Glutes and abs are nice, but man, getting people their life back, giving people hope when they thought they lost it. Can you imagine how many people were diagnosed with lupus or MS or something when they didn't have it? And that started me on a path of reversing disease. And it started me working with hospitals, of getting people off of their medications. So I've been primed for this. And that's why I have this position at the top. I'm not changing gears. I've been doing this. It's just the timing is ideal. I have a podcast that I do with Dr. Kristen Camella. We work together to operate a facility called Biohackers. In most of our podcasts, we talk about immunity. This is way before COVID anything. So my positioning has been ideal. I didn't know it. I didn't know there was a crisis coming. But I can teach you this. This brings you to the top. There are two systems that we can heal and we can assess to prove that they're being healed. Yes, we will help people lower their body fat. Yes, we will help them improve their VO2 max. Yes, we will make sure they look better in the mirror and fit better in their clothing. But when we're dealing with 65% of the adult population who have been diagnosed with a chronic disease that is reversible and they're not reversing it, if we could teach people to heal through these two systems, we become their top desire. So we understand the muscular system, we understand the respiratory system, we understand the circulatory system, but these are the two systems that will separate us when we start to really understand the immune system and the parasympathetic recovery system. At this point in time, I hear people say, I'm going to kill a lot. I hope you die. I'm not kidding. I mean, I see this in the comments on social media. Somebody says something, they go, I hope you get the virus and die. I didn't grow up in a world where people would speak to each other that way, honestly. It's hard for me to believe that that happens now. But man, there's so much underlying hate. And I think we have to recognize that there's a middle ground that's really important for us to stand on. I'm not asking you to change your personal opinions. Love Trump or hate him doesn't matter to me. You think everyone should be wearing masks, 2 masks, or you think nobody should be wearing masks, doesn't matter to me. I am not choosing the adversarial road right now. I don't know if he's here, but my friend and mentor, Joe T.R.U.E, owns Gainesville Health and Fitness, amazing, amazing business person, somebody I really look up to and I have for years. He did a very impassioned video on YouTube telling Florida club owners to reach out to the governor, and it was very sensible, and he spoke about the statistics and what's really happening and the importance of health clubs and how health clubs can open safely. And when you look at the comments on YouTube, they were venomous. Okay, you're just going to kill people then? Well, I guess everybody's going to die in Gainesville. Man, I don't want to be adversarial. I want people to come to me and love the fact that they came to me. So, although there's opportunity today to prosper by choosing a side, I think for longevity, it's a massive mistake. Because people are polarized. They're completely polarized. I don't know what Bill Gates is really doing behind closed doors. I don't know if Pizzagate was real. I've learned to say those 3 words, I don't know, very often throughout this crisis. But in the moment, in having financial security to the highest degree I can, none of those things are important to me, so why would I choose a side? So here's something that helps me. I'm going to share it with you. You don't have to be Switzerland. You don't have to be neutral. But you have to be magnetic. And if we have polarization, if you're magnetic and you're drawn to one side or the other, then you miss out on at least half the marketplace. If 65% of the adult population are suffering with chronic disease, and half of them are Democrats and half of them are Republicans, I don't want to choose. I want to help all of them. So if you adopt this way of thinking, then you can draw people to you without choosing a side. When somebody makes a firm statement, even if you disagree with it, you have to understand they are expressing a belief. And he believes what he believes because he sees what he sees. So I'm going to give you a real life example. I don't know if Tony and Jason are both here. They may be. But Jason from North Carolina, Jason Morgan, struggled with a decision, should he open his gym or not? And he was expecting help from the government, SBA loan, PPP, didn't get anything. And meanwhile, he's losing his members, he's losing his staff, and he doesn't have any money. So he decided to open his gym, but he did it in such a way that he had somebody standing outside taking the members' temperature, he limited access, he wiped everything down, because his perception was, I know what's going on TV, but in my community, nobody has it. I'm not seeing people sick. I know people who work in the hospitals, they don't really have any COVID patients. So why are we frozen and why am I losing everything? So I'm going to open, I'm going to be careful. Tony is a great personal trainer with his own studio, and he's in New York. And when he first heard about it, he said, I can't agree with it. And he knows Jason, he respects Jason, but he said, I can't get behind him because, man, this is terrible because people are dying. Now, in New York, if you're there in the midst of it, you at least know somebody who died, honestly. So they have different beliefs because of what they've seen. I know people during this pandemic, their lives are completely unaffected, literally, completely. Nothing's changed. If they don't turn on CNN, they don't know the world's any different. And then I know other people who their life doesn't even resemble what it was 90 days ago. So they're polarized because they're stuck on what they believe because of what they've seen. So I believe what I believe because I see what I see. So Jason believes what he believes because he sees what he sees. He doesn't see people dying from COVID. He doesn't see the hospitals cranking out corpses. He doesn't see it. He sees people losing their income and their livelihood and their health. So he believes what he believes because he sees what he sees. Now, if we took Jason and flew him up to New York and sat him there for a day, he'd probably have a different perspective. So, and guys, I'm not picking on you two. I'm just using it as an example that you're both very firm in your beliefs because of what you see. So if we can understand that, if we meet somebody, a prospect, a potential business client, an ally, and they're polarized, don't join in and don't oppose. Just understand they believe what they believe because they see what they see. And you believe what you believe because you see what you see. So to challenge somebody else's belief is to ignore that which that person has seen. To say that's not true is antagonistic. And it leads to, I want to kill you. It starts with antagonistic and it leads to, I want to kill you. So if you understand this, you go, okay, here's somebody with a different belief than me because they've seen different things than me. So I'm not going to challenge the belief, but I'm going to help this person understand what I see. I will share a different vision. And if I do that, I can move this person toward me. This is the way to come out the other side of this pandemic a hero. To think ahead and anticipate what will happen on the other side, we have to understand some things about the human mind and the human psyche. We have to understand what will prompt people to say, yes, I want to give you money. Yes, I trust you. Yes, I believe in you. It's not because you agree with their politics. It's because they have a perception of a need and they believe you could help them. So why would you bring in anything that could be conflict? You have to understand people are dealing with fear. And what you're sometimes seeing as hostility or anger is a residual effect of the fear response, the stress response. So understanding mindset becomes vitally important if you're truly going to lead. A huge part of my business has become mindset. Now, I didn't just suddenly take this on. I studied mindset for years. For more than 20 years now, extensively. And I think you have to be careful because, we live in a world today where somebody signs up for a course online and suddenly they're a coach or an expert. And I've learned to affect mindset by understanding a metaphor for the moving parts. And what I understand is the reticular activating system is the internal GPS within each individual. So when somebody believes what they believe because they see what they've seen, those visions and beliefs affect their programming. So if you understand it is a program that is driving them, it's not always rational thought, it is a program, then if we're going to change their outcome, we have to change their programming. Why can't we just tell somebody to behave differently? Well, because there are two other vital parts of mindset. One is called the EEM, the emotional experiential memory. The emotional experiential memory drives the fear response. It is the part of the brain that once, when you were tiny, you touched a hot stove because it looked like something fun to do. And although you didn't intellectually learn this, emotionally you learned hot stove equals pain, and you never, ever did that again. You didn't do it a second time or a third time, once, because your EEM stored it. So your EEM's job is to keep you safe, so when it links something with pain or hurt, it steers you away. Well, this sounds good. But what if somebody got on a really bad exercise program and they overtrained and got hurt and got injured? The EEM says exercise equals pain. Avoid that. What if somebody went on a diet and got sick and really uncomfortable? EEM says never diet. What made them feel good? Cheesecake. So they get programmed. So you try to influence people rationally. You go, don't eat cheesecake, that's bad for you. They go, I don't know why I'm eating it, I just have to eat it. It's the way they're programmed. And there is a part of the mind brain called the PFC, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain where we create new possibility. This is where we imagine an outcome, something that doesn't yet exist. And as you start to explore this with people, what you're going to learn is so many people have lost the connection to their PFC. They cannot imagine a different outcome. They stay with the herd because it's all they know, because the programming says, stay safe. And if you're going into the bloody ocean, you're doing it because your EEM is saying, stay safe. It's bad programming. You've got to think differently. You've got to wake up the prefrontal cortex. This is a picture of a man standing on a mountain with a funny-looking suit. There's something really interesting about this suit. When the wind hits it, wings come out. And he's not standing on top of the mountain going, oh my God, what a beautiful view. He's standing on top of the mountain getting ready for his greatest adrenaline rush. He's about to jump and fly. You've got to have a very strong PFC to do this. He's not suicidal. He's having fun. So when we look at somebody who doesn't exercise, doesn't take chances, works the same job every day, works in a cubicle, has the same lunch every single day, they are driven by EEM programming. They do not have activity in their prefrontal cortex. Why am I telling you this? Because if you want people to change, you've got to awaken a new possibility in them. The medical community will not do this. The virtual fitness community will not do this. This becomes a part of what you have in your toolbox. It's not just eat right and exercise anymore. It's give people the tools they need to get what they want to get. I'm going to take the brain and break it into three parts just for further explanation of where we as professionals need to step up. The neocortex is the part of the brain that is unique to elevated mammals. We think, we reason, we weigh things out, we prepare our argument because we have this very sophisticated gray matter called our neocortex. So we can do a lot of contemplating, and we could read something, and we can understand language, and we can learn a language. And part of the challenge is when we try to influence people, we try to do it with that level of thought. We go, well, let's reason this thing through. Let's draw a line down a sheet of paper and weigh things out. And it frustrates us because we know that the potential client should act and sign up, but they don't. And they don't need the medication, but they keep taking it because of their programming. So if we're going to change outcomes, we've got to change programming. Why am I talking about this in a pandemic? Because people are buying into fear. We've got to release them from it. This is what will separate us from everybody who's following into the bloody ocean. Is this making sense? Just give me a yes if this is making sense. Just give me a yes, I'm with you, Phil, if you're hearing me and going, uh-huh. Now, there are two other parts of brain here. I said neocortex is one. Then we have the limbic system. The limbic system is where we store emotions, and the limbic system helps us make decisions based on the emotions that we store and based on our emotional programming. And then we have the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is what we share, of course, with reptiles. And the reptilian brain deals with survival. So a lizard may sit on a rock and something shows up. So the lizard doesn't weigh things out and go, hey, buddy, you want to have a debate? Or let's see what this thing is. The lizard only asks 4 simple questions because that's all the reptilian brain allows. Should I eat it? Should I mate with it? Should I fight it? Or should I run from it? That's it. Now, I'm sharing this with you because in the influence process, we've got to get past somebody's reptilian brain to get to their neocortex. Which is why if you feel like you're trying to sell somebody, they go reptilian. They go, I have to run from you. So we can't come out of the gate and sell. We have to come out of the gate and understand. We have to empathize. We don't come out trying to sell them. We come out trying to understand them. And only then can we get to their emotional brain and their thinking brain and truly help them make the right decisions. So we've got to learn to get people past their conscious thought and past their programming if we're really going to get them to change. So this becomes a vital tool. Plato said, the human mind is like a chariot drawn by 2 horses. One is the horse named desire, and desire will go where it wants to go, and it understands that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But the other horse is much, much stronger, and that is the horse named emotion. And when emotion decides to break away from the path, the entire chariot goes. So it's not an intellectual conversation. It's not helping people understand that wellness is better than sickness. Rationally, intellectually, they know that. It's about helping them recognize their level of pain and then helping them understand that you are what they need. This is what separates you from everyone else. We have to stimulate emotion without evoking fear. We have to break the neural pathways that people are locked into because of the old paradigm. We have to align emotion and desire so the chariot goes exactly where you want it to. So there is a new paradigm. The leaders will do things differently, and I'm laying the groundwork for you right here. I want to share this, and this is something that, having had the opportunity to work with health practitioners around the world, it allowed me to develop a compass for my own comfort level. And this probably applies to people, but as I formulated it, it was more for people in the medical field. So if you're looking at your screen and you're looking to the top, you see what I call the collective. It's good to have the influence of a collective. Doctors are part of the American Medical Association, so they get some of their guidelines from an association. But if you're 1,000% within that collective, you may not be open to things that are outside of their paradigm. So when I see people too stuck in a collective, that's what I would consider a cult. They believe everything they believe because of what they're told, not because of what they've seen. So it's dangerous to get stuck in the collective. What would be the south arrow is the individual. Now, you want to hold on to your individuality, but you don't want to be a maverick and you don't want to reject everybody else. So the idea is you want to be in the middle. You want to hear what the organizations say. You want to learn from groups. You want to share other people's experience, but you also want to follow your heart and your own desire. So we want to be in the middle. We want to be in the center. Now we have the East and the West, and those are a little different. If we look to the right of the screen, we see what represents the parasite. The parasite is the individual who is gaining by the suffering of others, gaining by consuming others. I'm going to give you an example, the pharmaceutical companies. They prosper because people suffer. Do the drug companies want a cure? Doesn't have to be answered. Because they make billions and billions and billions by feasting on pain. So when physicians or medical professionals align with that paradigm, they become parasitic. Not necessarily because they're bad people, but when they're following the collective and they're following the model, and they get in an insurance model, and insurance will reimburse them for certain codes and certain diagnoses and certain prescriptions, and they have a mortgage and they have their kids in private school and they have to make a certain income and they're locked in, they become parasites. Not on purpose, but it's what they become. Now, on the complete opposite side, we have the empath. The empath suffers because of others. The parasite causes others to suffer. The empath suffers because of others. All of you have done this. I know this. There has been at least one time, or maybe 100 times, or maybe 1,000, where you said, I'm not going to train anybody after 6 p.m. And somebody called you and said, oh, I can't make it in the morning. Can you train me tonight at 7? And you said, okay. Because you're an empath. Your heart went out to them. So you suffer. Not a lot, just a little. But you charge less than you deserve because they tell you they can't afford it. And over time, that's a lot of bleeding that you're doing because you're an empath. Now, I'm not suggesting there's virtue in being a parasite, not by any means. But there's no virtue in being the empath either. Now, if you make the excuse, I'm an empath by nature, I'm telling you, you have the ability to strengthen. You have the ability to be in the middle. So what does that mean? It means we're going to help people. We're not going to make money at the expense of others. We're going to help people. But we're going to stand firm in our value. We're not going to compromise. We're not going to let other people take from us. We're going to deliver, and here's a term I've used a few times, a fair value exchange. We're going to build our business based on a fair value exchange. We give people what they need, and in exchange for that, they give us the money we deserve. That's good business. And then we profit, and that's the reason your business exists. So how do we do it? Touch, compel, capture, thrill. This is it. This is how you build your business. Touch, compel, capture, thrill. This is all you need to know. You can write off any marketing guru right now. You have the secret. Touch, compel, capture, thrill. Touch means let people know that you exist. You've got to do that every single day. That's marketing. But don't just randomly touch. Touch the widest segment of the target population in which the perceived need is pervasive. And from that audience, compel your avatar. You find me somebody who has suffered with a thyroid issue for 10 years or more. That is my avatar. I know that person. I know what they've gone through. I know what their doctor has said to them. I know the medications they've been on. I know that they're at least 12 pounds overweight, sometimes 40 pounds overweight, and I know that nothing they've tried has worked. And I have the fix 100% of the time. So you give me that audience, and I will speak to that avatar, and they will all be compelled. Now, once they're compelled, I have to capture them. I have to make a promise, and I have to give them an offer. So if I can touch and compel, it's not enough. I've got to be ready in the moment somebody says, I'm interested, for me to say, I promise you I can do this. Here's what you're going to do right now. So capture means money changes hands. And now we have an obligation. Now we've created a debt. Because they've given us money and we have to deliver. And this is where you shine. I know you guys. The thrill part is easy. It's the other pieces that you have trouble with. That's what separates you from all the other marketers. They can touch and compel and capture. They can't thrill. You can thrill. You've just got to get good at the touch, compel, capture part. This is the standard health club revenue model. Now, I want to tell you that right now, at this point in time, 24-Hour Fitness has declared bankruptcy. The Gold's Gym franchise organization is gone bye-bye. I don't want to mention the names of the independent clubs, but I will tell you many of them are filing for Chapter 11 relief. When I tell you there was disruption, I'm talking about the world is being rocked. What was opportunity is not anymore. There needs to be a change, and you need to stand on the pinnacle where you can see the change as it happens. This is the model for the health club that used to thrive and cannot survive right now. Membership was where all the revenues came from. So when the day came that they were told by some mandate that they have to close their doors, and when all of their members were told they have to shelter at home, some of the clubs, because this is all they have in terms of revenue, they kept charging members, and as a result, there are now class action suits against them. I'm watching the paradigm crumble. This is the model that worked that cannot work anymore. This is the model that I learned to build. In a health club, in any setting, equal revenue from personal training, from programs, and from membership. The beauty of this is you've got to thrill your members to keep them coming. It's not about a revolving door of new members. It's about selling memberships and then getting your members to connect with trainers and get results and sign up for programs. And then you build a network where revenue goes far within a finite audience as opposed to always needing a new audience. The ideally saleable health club revenue model is nourished when you market effectively, bring people into your funnel, and then connect them with your staff, with your programs, with your trainers. When they are contributing to your revenue by being in your community. This is the ideal business model. The old model was flawed, and it's going away. Now, I'm going to show you how you can step into this new model. We've got about 10 minutes left. And I will hang around for a few minutes if you guys have questions in the chat window. The life cycle of business applies to any business. It came from a Dr. Adizes, and this is taught at Harvard Business School, and this applies to any business in any industry. So when a business begins, it begins as an idea. And the idea is in somebody's head, and it starts with the phase of courtship. So courtship means you have this idea, and you sit down with your spouse or your friend, and you go, you know what, I have this idea, I want to share it with you. And they either go, what a great idea, so now it's turning into something, or they go, you're an idiot. And depending on your programming, you will either stop at you're an idiot, or you'll go forward. And maybe in the courtship phase, you need to find investors, you need to raise money. And then you get to the point of infancy. And infancy means you took your first dollar. Somebody actually gave you money to be a customer. And that means now the business exists. And in infancy, you struggle because there are fires every single day. Things don't go the way you expected. You had this great business plan, but your customers didn't read the plan. So everything goes haywire, but you're loving it because you're an infant. You don't have the bad associations yet. You don't have the heavily programmed EEM. You have this frenetic energy, and every time you put out another fire, you feel great. Saved another customer. High five. And then you get into adolescence, and in the adolescence phase, you think you know everything, but you don't. You're like, okay, I've arrived, but you haven't. So now you make big mistakes because you think you're smarter than you really are. Then you get into sustenance, and sustenance is seductive. Sustenance is a trap. Sustenance is where you say, now I can pay the bills. See, up until then, you were sweating it. You had to show up every day. You had to put in sweat. And when you get to sustenance, you go, now I'm paying the bills. Now, that doesn't mean you're becoming financially secure. It just means you're paying the bills. But it feels good. You feel like you've graduated. So sustenance is a trap, and too many business owners plant their roots. They go, okay, this is it. Here I am, selling memberships. Good. Got my sales team. Good. Got 100 client sessions a month. Beautiful. But you can't stop there. If you stop there, you will die. You've got to get to prime. Prime is where everything is working at every level, where revenue is growing, where your energy is high, where people are speaking highly of you, where you're getting referral business. Now, when you get to prime, that feels really, really good. But on the other side of prime is called stability. And stability is not just paying the bills. Stability is like the business is working, I'm taking a paycheck, now I can go on vacation because my business is stable. So this too is seductive, and it's a trap, because when you get to stability, if you are no longer moving toward prime, you start heading down the other side. And all of your competitors, all the other sharks who've been watching you, they still have that frenetic energy that you just walked away from. So the trick is to stay in prime. Get to prime and stay in prime, and it is a moving target. So this is the ideal time to build your business all over again. Everything you have is a resource. If you go, I don't have to build my business again, I have 100 clients. Great, that's a resource. Build a new business on that. That's your foundation. You'll have 2,600 members. Beautiful. What a great start for your new business, because we're coming out of disruption. So rather than trying to backpedal and go back to where you were, let's move ahead. You need to refine your promise and your offer. What do we help clients do? Not work out. Don't say that. That's the commodity that's flawed. Nobody wants to work out. Sure they do, Phil. No, they do it because they think it will bring them something. They want the something. So what do we help clients do? Reverse disease, restore immunity, recover, recreate themselves, recompose their bodies. That's what we help clients do. So here's your opportunity to literally build a whole new business. Begin with your castle. What is the foundation? What are you building upon? What resources do you come with? Even if you've been in business 20 years, I'm doing the same thing. I see this as the greatest opportunity of my entire career. It's time to build a new business with all the wisdom and resources that you've accumulated to this point. Now is the time you have to determine your ICA, your ideal client avatar. Who is your market specifically? I told you mine. I'll tell you mine specifically. Mine is somebody who has REMAS. What is REMAS? It's a name that I made up with the permission of doctors. I have doctors endorsing it, saying, yes, this is true. You will not find this in a medical book, which means I'm the only one who's marketing the term. But it is accurate. When people have weight loss resistance, when they have thyroid disease, when they have high blood sugar, when they have prediabetes, they have REMAS. Restrictive endocrine maladaptive adrenal stress syndrome. They've never heard of it before because nobody else ever came up with this term. But when I get my avatar to sit with me and I help them understand you have REMAS, it is a fully reversible condition that your doctor never showed you how to reverse. I have no competition. I'm sharing this with you not because you're going to become my competition, because I want you to become my ally. I feel like a small group of 200 health practitioners can be at the Pinnacle right now. In the center of the compass, not the parasite. 30 years ago, I came up with a system, the 800 square foot profit monster. Some of the largest personal training companies now in the world started with this model. I released it at a conference that I ran, probably 1995. 60 people came to that conference. Probably 30 of them started 800 square foot profit monsters. I'm in touch with all of those people to this day. It was a model that was ahead of its time. It took a small footprint. Now, let me tell you, at the time, I owned a 25,000 square foot club, and we did well. And I also owned an 800 square foot studio. And I made more profit out of the 800 square foot studio than I made out of the 25,000 square foot club. Not more revenue, more profit. It was a perfect model. I will share, after we finish, I'm going to ask you to complete a survey, and when you finish the survey, I'll give you this entire presentation, so you'll get this. But now, 2020, I'm suggesting you can create this profit monster in a room in your house. 800 square feet, you needed a commercial space. It was a racquetball court size. Now I'm saying you could do this in a 20 by 20 space, or even a 12 by 20 space, a bedroom in your house. You don't have to pay rent. Can we benefit from virtual? Yes, but that should not be the foundation of the business. Of course we'll benefit from it. It's another stream. But it's not the business. The business is delivering outcomes. So we should have virtual programs, but we should also have high-ticket consults where you charge a good amount of money because you deliver. We will do virtual orientations out of this model where people sign up to attend what looks like a Zoom call. They pay $20 with a money-back guarantee, and you compel them and capture them as clients. You can equip this virtual studio where you can do one-on-one if you choose to for less than $1,500. You can generate money with very little risk. And you can make up to $40,000 a month based on actual numbers. Now, if you want to take that business and build it stronger, you can. You create premium services. You connect with somebody who does lymphatic massage. You invest in pulsed electromagnetic frequency, negative ion therapy, sound healing, quantum healing. These are all therapies and strategies that I use. And I'm saying you don't need a massive footprint to do this. I'm not asking you to open a supplement store, but there are some products that you believe are valuable to people. Build them into your revenue. And you can take this same concept and bring it into a commercial setting. This, as my friend J.R. Burgess knows well, is ideal to bring into an integrative medical business, an existing business where there's a mix of parasites and empaths trying to help people get well. I promise you they have some space that is not bringing a return. The dollars generated per square foot will be radically changed if you bring this model into a medical business. It can be a dedicated space in a corporate compound. It can be a commercial space that you wind up renting. You can create the 800 square foot profit monster. And this is the model that I'm going to utilize. This is the model I'm going to stand upon. This is the model that I'm going to replicate. And this is the model that I'm going to teach. Keep in mind, you can run it out of your home, or you could run it out of your space that you rent, or you could run it out of a mainstream health club, or you could run it out of a medical business. Now, here's how you bring people in when they're captured. You connect them for 30 days with a discounted rate and a renewable component. So, for example, you say this program is $4,000 for a month. But if you sign up on a recurring basis, it's only $2,000 a month. Now, if you want to ask me what the program is, we'll figure that out as we go. It's a combination of services and offerings and assessments and exercise prescription and nutritional guidance and mindset work. It's all of that. But I'm picking numbers that are workable so you understand the concept. $4,000 if you want to just pay for 30 days. But if you commit ongoing, it's only $2,000. So everybody chooses the renewable. Now, they can cancel at any time, but you thrill them so they don't cancel. And there's an upsell built in. So for me, it's the nutritional products. The whole concept is built on touch, compel, capture. You've got to be strong enough to get people to commit with you in the moment they are emotionally compelled. And in order to drive this forward, I am initiating a program called T.R.U.E, the Road Underlying Excellence. It's beginning as a 10-week program. Every week, we're going to focus on something specific. This is a no-fail. This is not built by you imitating. This is built by me laying out the model and you bringing in your uniqueness. Mileposts 1 through 5, these are conventional business building. Mileposts 6 through 10, these allow you to find your own level of prime. These remove you from competitors. This makes you something completely unique. This makes you a business that is built on your passion, but survives because it is generating massive profit. It is a program for health catalysts and human betterment practitioners. What does that mean? It means personal trainers or health coaches or chiropractors and naturopaths or anybody who's committed to a science so that they can better the lives of others. It is not for parasites. It will teach you to identify and ethically exploit your unique offering so you stand above. There will not be a threat on the competitive landscape because nobody in your marketplace will be doing what you do. The program will provide insight, direction, models, and coaching to make sure that you understand how to make this work. So the program is beginning June 23rd, 10 weeks running through September 1st. Every week we will have 2 meetings. Sometimes it'll be a webinar, sometimes it'll be a teleconference. We will have options for 24/7 interaction through a Facebook group and chat. The cost of the program, don't go anywhere right now, is $1,600 with a $100 registration fee. Now, I'm promising you, this is a business that will throw off at the very least $25,000 a month if you follow it the way I'm suggesting, $40,000 a month, and there's no limit. And this is all ethical based on what you do. I couldn't have presented this before this disruption. This is based on the way the industry has been rattled. This is a fail-proof model. On the other side of the 10 weeks, I am unifying a group of healers in what I'm calling the Healer Nation. And we will band together as a team independently to create a facility that nobody can touch, everybody owning their own. I know we're in a time that's tight with money. So normally I would say it's $1,600. It's $100 now, $1,600 before we start. But if you want to be a part of this, I want you to. So here's what I'm willing to do. And this is not a catch. I'm promising you there's not a trick here in the capture. I'm being sincere. I thought this through. What I know, and you guys have learned this too, I'm sure, is if you pay nothing, you'll do nothing. I know that. I do. We do things charitably. Right now I'm running a group called the 55 Days. Some of you are familiar with it. I brought in some friends and colleagues who are coaches. And the truth is we have 5,000 people signed up in the group, and many of them are benefiting. But the truth is probably 3,500 won't because they didn't pay anything. That's the truth. So I'm not asking you to pay $1,600 if money is tight. If money is not tight, I am asking you to pay $1,600 if you want to be a part of it. And I promise you it'll be the best investment you ever make. But here's what I'm willing to do. If you say, yes, Phil, this sounds good, of course I need to know details, but I'm at least interested, then it'll be $35 a week for 10 weeks with a non-binding agreement. Here's what the agreement will say. We will subtract the $35 per week, that's $350 from the $1,600. That leaves $1,250. You will sign an agreement that says, when you earn $10,000 profit as a result of this, you will start to pay me down on that $1,250. However, it will also say there is no obligation. So this is you saying that you'd like to, but I will never come to collect the money. You'll only give it to me if you feel it's worth it. So this is me putting myself in this with you. So if you want to do this, you can do it for $35 a week. It's open only to 60 practitioners. You can't just come in. I want to know all 60 people. When I used to have my big annual conferences, I would limit it to 60 people because I wanted to know everybody. By the end of 3 days, I would know everybody by name. I would know their story. So for 10 weeks, I want to hang out with 60 people who become my colleagues, my allies, and my friends. If you want to be a part of it, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to complete a survey right now. There's no obligation at all in the survey, but the survey will ask you, do you want to have a conversation with me about being in the T.R.U.E program? And you'll either say yes or no. And if you say no, I will not ask you again. And if you say yes, we'll set up a 15-minute phone call, there is no pressure. We'll just talk about how this applies to you. Okay, any thoughts, comments, questions? My hope is I changed the way you think. My hope is I steered you away from heading into the bloody sea. My hope is I gave you some insight and a different level of awareness. My hope is whether or not you ever speak with me again, this had impact. Anything at all that you want to ask or share? Okay, I appreciate the accolades. It's nice. But if there is, in fact, a question, I want you to ask it. I'm going to read every survey. I really am. And those of you who are also contacting me privately in the chat window, I appreciate that too. Okay, last chance. Is there a thought, a comment, a question? And if not, I'm going to direct you to the survey. Please, please, please. I know you've been with me for 90 minutes or so, but just hang around another 2 minutes. It's really important to me that you complete the survey either way. Until we speak again, I look forward to all of you rising to a new level, to a new pinnacle on the other side of this craziness, and all of us will. We're going to change the world for the better. Until we speak again, be better, everybody. Bye-bye.